The following is an independently produced community access program. The viewpoints expressed are those of the community access producer and do not reflect those of Shaw Cable Systems. The program is presented in response to CRTC policy guidelines regulating community programming.
Welcome to the Kerby Centre Successful Aging Series. I'm Luanne Whitmarsh. I'm the CEO of the Kerby Centre. In case you don't know, Kerby Centre is where you come for all your needs when you're 55 plus. We're here for all of your needs. Today we're joined by Sandra Crozier-McKee and David McKee from the Better Business Bureau. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Just fine, thanks very much.
Welcome. So today we'd like to talk a little bit about the scams and things that hit older adults from the BBB's perspective. Sandra, can you start?
Sure. Well, there's a lot of scams out there. Unfortunately, there are always scams, but in particular, there are some that are targeted towards seniors. The one that we see most often is the grandparent schemes. So that's taken on a number of different looks to it, but it really comes down to someone contacting a senior saying it's a grandchild, or they're contacting them on behalf of a grandchild and stating that there is an issue and money needs to be sent, and it always needs to be wired, and it needs to, and there's a sense of urgency to it. It has to happen right away. So this is one that keeps coming back. It seems to be really rampant for a while, then it kind of slows down, then it starts up again. And the number of seniors that are impacted by this, it seems to be increasing. And a lot of times, they're quite elaborate scams in that they actually know the child's name. They may have got it off of Facebook or Twitter, something like that, but they've been able to make that connection. So it sounds very realistic to the individual, and of course they're concerned because this is their grandchild and they want to do something immediately.
Sure.
Other scams that we see targeting seniors tend to be door-to-door scams, and I think that only impacts seniors more, not because it's targeted for seniors so much as that more seniors tend to be home during the day than other people. So there is that presence at the door where seniors feel that they have to be particularly congenial to those people because they're at their door, and they can become victimized there. There's a lot through the mail, primarily the shopping scam, although we see that coming through the internet as well, and that's where somebody asks you to be a secret shopper for them. They give you a check either in the mail or they're on the internet and they mail it to you. Your job is to wire some funds through UPS or through Western Union, and they're supposedly checking their services. By the time your check clears your bank, of course, they're never where any funds, and they have got your money. So it's really a number of areas where the approach is different, and the senior tends to be more susceptible because they're available. The other growing area that we need to see is identity theft, and that primarily coming through the internet, and that's where somebody gets an email with something that you're supposed to click on, or you or to provide information about your bank account, or whatever, so that you think it's coming from someone legitimate. In actual fact, it is not. So the goal there is to take over your identity and be able to build that into an ability to get some funds, or simply to get some malware uploaded onto your computer. So things to watch for.
Do you feel that a lot of the scams are out just to target older adults and seniors, or do you feel like there's just because they're home at a different time and they're more available at different times?
I think there is that misconception out there that seniors are the most susceptible to scams. And as I mentioned, certain ones, of course, the grandparent one is targeted to seniors. But in reality, the most common victim across North America is actually a male in their 50s, well-educated, and they tend to be highly susceptible to certain scams, such as investment. That surprises people, I think, because they think it's always going to be a senior. Identity theft, interestingly enough, one of the largest areas, age groups hit there are the 20 to 29-year-olds, probably because they are on the internet more, using their cell phones more, and not using passwords and things as much. So I think that a lot of seniors are becoming very less susceptible to scams because they are educating themselves and because we are aware of the fact that they could be victimized. But the approach that a lot of scammers use tends to hit the seniors more because they are at home more, they are on the phone more, they are at the door more.
Wow. So David, what are some of the things that you hear about in your role as the community development?
A couple of things. I find seniors are very interested in sharing their experiences with their particular scam or fraud incidences. And the other thing, it's quite interesting. They're very curious about new technology. So even though they may not necessarily be using it, they want to understand it and they want to know if it's safe or not. And sometimes I'm not sure if they're gathering that for other people to tell their family or whether they're planning on using it themselves. And actually, a surprising number of seniors are pretty savvy on the electronic stuff, right? The internet and the credit card stuff. So I've learned a thing or two on some of these sessions too. So in fact, there's a thing called Equifax, which is checking your credit rating. And when I first started doing this, it really wasn't part of my program to talk about it. And a guy got up and talked about it for 5 minutes, and I got so interested in it. That's an integral part of my program, and everybody loves it. So,
would you say that a lot of people feel kind of ashamed when they've been caught in a situation? And I think maybe people are a bit reserved initially to start talking about it, to say that they've been a victim?
I think in any kind of crime, being a victim is very hard on people, and they don't want to come forward. Chances of becoming a victim of an economic crime or a financial crime are really higher than they are of most other crimes that are out there. And people are embarrassed at any age. But I think especially seniors do struggle with that because it's almost a loss of independence that they're already feeling in some senses. And so to say that, there's fear attached to it. If I'm becoming victimized by this, perhaps people think I'm not capable anymore, that I'm not able to take care of myself. And so they don't want to admit that this has happened. Any kind of victim, there's an emotional attachment to it as well. So we do find that it's very hard on seniors when they do become victimized because of that loss of independence. They start to lose their own belief in their self, and so that's very difficult for them to recover from, whereas other people at a different age might slough it off, or they might have sloughed it off a bit more at a younger age. It's very difficult.
So if someone calls the BBB and wants to query about something, I've been called by this person saying I've got this great opportunity, I'm nervous, can you please tell me from the BBB if I should carry forward? What kind of advice do you, is that the process that you would go through for advice?
Absolutely. We have seniors who contact us by phone. Some of them actually walk in and talk to us about things. As David mentioned, a lot of them are very internet savvy now, so they're going to the website, they're looking at the reviews, they're looking at the consumer tips and videos that we have there. But any time that they wanted to call us and have a conversation, we're more than happy to give them some advice. And it may not even be something that falls under the purview of the BBB, but we have contact information from other government agencies, the RCMP, the Kerby Centre, various places where we can redirect them if someone else can help better.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. I think that having the BBB as a resource is really, really important for all citizens, and I think that it's really important for older adults to make sure that they're aware that there's a place to go prior to making any kind of those commitments, and I think that's a great service that you provide.
Thank you, and we're very proud to have that service, and because of our accredited businesses, and these are businesses that have chosen to come forward and become vetted and become accredited, we're able to provide all those services free. So we really encourage people to take advantage of them.
That's great. Would you have any sort of general statistics about the volume that you're seeing of older adults calling in?
That's a very good question, and I would not have that statistic at my fingertips, but I think I can certainly tell you when it comes to walk-ins, they are primarily seniors, and they do come in on a fairly regular basis. So we're always happy to see them and to have a conversation with them. So that would be probably the number one way that they get in touch with us. But I do know from talking with our customer service reps that they do spend a lot of time with seniors. And then certainly we've developed an entire series of education tips for seniors especially, and so that's something that David does. He does that at the Kerby Centre and other facilities, so you might want to tell them a little bit about some of the topics that we cover there.
The most popular one is something, it's called the big picture in seniors and scams, and that kind of gives a basic overview of what we're doing. So in my particular case, when I go out there, I like to keep it very interactive. We can get off topic very easily on a specific thing. They always go longer than they're supposed to. People have a lot of questions, and I just play it by ear. And like I say, the more sort of traditional ones are the ones people want to talk about, and the more sort of new items, they're curious about them and they want to kind of know how to avoid them. But we get off on all sorts of topics. I talk about credit card fraud. And it wasn't even on the agenda initially, but people are interested in it. Things like flashcarding and that sort of business.
Some real free flow of talking then.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think people get more out of it at these things when they can ask the question when it's fresh in their mind, as opposed to kind of saving it up for the end of the program.
That's great.
And, we do a whole section on investment scam, and there again, that's an area because seniors do have some money.
Yes.
So if there are people who are looking for investors, that's an area where they can be susceptible, and there is a whole section just on investment, for instance.
And you never underestimate people's interest in things. I got doing this one where it was in a retirement home, and so I figured reverse mortgages wouldn't affect anybody in it. And one of the comments I got afterwards was, you should have spent more time on reverse mortgages. So you can't second guess what people are interested in.
That's great. Well, we're going to pause here. We'll be right back. And if you are a victim or feel that you might be, or someone that you love is, you can call the Elder Abuse Response Line at the Kerby Centre, 403-705-3251, or be sure to connect with the BBB. We're there to help. Welcome back to the Kerby Centre's Successful Aging series. We continue on today with Sandra and David from the BBB. We're talking about all kinds of scams and risks for older adults. Welcome back. So I'd like to carry on, David, with some thoughts that you have from the seminars that you put on. I'd really like to hear about that so people understand the depth that you go into.
Well, I mentioned the big picture program we have, and that's actually an overview of 4 or 5 different programs that we have that we do in-depth programs on. So we'd have, for instance, we have an investment presentation, house and home, windfall, And I'm having my senior moment. I'm a part-time Sweetheart scams, that's right. So we usually do those, and just as an aside, like we have other things that would probably be of interest to seniors too.
Oh, tell us.
As well as we just developed an internet one that we haven't actually done. I'm actually going out with it this week for the first time, which would have appeal to seniors as well. How to hire a contractor. There's still a lot of seniors in their homes, so I do get questions about that as well. So things like that. New Canadians for people that may be seniors or have some relatives that are in that situation. So, but getting back to the others, so we break these things down briefly in the big picture. So, for instance, if I was doing the investment one, I'd have things like pyramid schemes or Ponzi schemes or Boilermaker schemes or those things. I also throw some of the internet investment stuff in there and the credit cards as well. For the Sweetheart scams, it would be mainly confidence.
Online dating,
that sort of thing. For house and home, that would be more of the door-to-door thing, which everybody's familiar with, and windfall would be a lot of the telemarketing. So.
Wow. So when you think about all these different scams and things that are out there, what does someone do if it's their mom and dad or their grandma and their grandpa? What do they do about that?
Well, I'm really glad you brought that up, because I do think it is a responsibility that we should all take on. And one of the things that makes the grandparent scam work so well, for instance, is the fact that we're all leading very busy lives and running around and traveling and doing different things. And so often, Grandma and Grandpa or Uncle Joe don't know where we are or what we're doing. So that makes it easy for a scammer to be able to say, so-and-so is on the road, they got into trouble, there was an accident, whatever the scam is. And they immediately think, well, that's possible because I haven't heard from them in a while. They could be traveling. Or we see this happen a lot at the end of the school term or the start of the school term when students are on the road. So making sure that senior person in your life knows where you are and what you're up to, that helps them to have the proper ammunition when somebody comes after them with this type of scam, because they can say, well, I know they're not in Los Angeles, they're in town, or I know that they're traveling but they're not anywhere near there. So having that kind of conversation. The other thing is, I think, just keeping an open conversation, because we talked earlier about, people not feeling comfortable about, coming forward and saying, I'm a victim, or I might be a victim, because they're afraid that people will think they're not capable of taking care of themselves. Making sure that the senior in your life realizes that we're all victims of scams at one time or another. And so that doesn't necessarily mean that they're incompetent. So keeping that conversation open so that they feel comfortable talking to you and saying, I got this strange letter or this email the other day, I'm not sure what to do about it. That you're not going to, kind of start going, well, I'm not sure you're really should be getting this kind of stuff. Maybe we should look at some different arrangements for you or something. So having that dialogue, making them feel comfortable is really important. And the number one thing that any of us can do is to educate ourselves. And that's why we invite people to the BBB, to either the internet, visiting our website, or actually coming in personally, or attending a session. That's our best defense, is education. And once the horse has left the barn, often there's not a lot that anybody can do.
Sure.
So educating yourself and making sure that the senior in your life is educated as well is really our best defense for all of us.
I was wondering if I could come back to you, David, if we could just delve a little bit into the dating scams that are out there, the internet dating scams. I think that there's a lot of folks that are out there that have lost a partner and are wishing and hoping that they had someone special in their life. Can you give us an example of some of the things that are out there so people can be aware?
It's sort of they're all sort of variations on the confidence angle, where people are emotionally vulnerable and people are just making that connection with them through various means to ultimately either steal their identity or probably short term just get some money, or if they really hit the jackpot, then they get into your bank account. So those sort of things. But it's just it's a degree of familiarity, and sometimes it's fairly quickly and a quick thing, and other times it's a little more insidious. It's over a long period of time, and I think the styles are all different, but the goal is the same. So.
If I can just interject a bit there too. I mean, it's a very old scam. It used to take place, often through pen pals and that sort of thing. But some of the red flags are the same. They tend to be people who the relationship escalates rather quickly. There always seems to be a person who is ill, whether it's them, a member of their family. And they need money, and for some reason they can't get to it. It's tied up in investments. They're offshore. They're out of the country, and they have a lot of excuses for why they can't meet in person. So those are some things to watch for if you're involved in a relationship with somebody that you haven't actually seen, or that you've seen pictures where you're not sure that's actually them.
Wow. Educate, educate, educate.
You got it.
Absolutely, and it's just once your awareness is heightened to a certain degree, you make that point earlier about not coming forward because you're ashamed of things. Just quickly, I had that happen to me almost 15 or 20 years ago at the city, and a guy came up to me and said his grandmother was sick in Banff. And he hit me up for $5. 2 weeks later, same guy did the same thing to me.
Oh gosh.
He looked like the most honest guy in the room. He was about 18. I mean, and I didn't tell anybody about it for years because, quite frankly, I was pretty embarrassed about it. And it's the same thing here. It's like Sandra was talking about earlier. It's like they're not particularly interested in your age or how much money you have. It's a shotgun approach. So
do you take the education series into all kinds of places, and could they call and set up a session, anybody to gather people together to learn this?
Absolutely, yeah. In fact, I've been kicking around a couple of ideas with one of our volunteer phone people, and they have a lot of good ideas about what people want to hear. Again, it'll be probably something on more kind of an interactive level. So. But yes, we have all sorts of people phone us up for things. I get seniors groups. I've gone to the condo associations. And we have a few community associations coming up. So yes, absolutely, give me a call.
And some new Canadians as well. We also have some volunteers now who are doing some of our presentations in Mandarin.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, so available in different languages now.
Oh, that's wonderful. So for the education pieces, which I think is what we really want people to really pay attention to,
Absolutely.
that if you have education, you can prevent these things in your life. Is there anything else that you want to touch on education-wise?
Definitely coming to the site, watching the videos. We have Western Union has worked with us as well to set up a scam stopper site where you can constantly get information. You can join us on Facebook, Twitter. We're constantly sending out information about the most recent scams, and there's always a new scam.
You were telling us today there was a situation that's rising up again. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
At this time of year, it's moving, absolutely. We've got a lot of people moving, students are moving, the weather's good. This is the time when people would prefer to move rather than January. And so, that's this time of year we start getting a lot of complaints, a lot of people calling in to check up. We see our website hits on reviews for movers going way up. So definitely check with us before you buy. Check your contract. There are lots of tips we can give you to make your move safe, and you can always expect the unexpected in a move. I'm an Air Force brat, so I grew up moving all over the place. So, making sure your insurance is covered, making sure that you have made the right decision on the right mover, but also totally understanding that contract. And for the movers themselves, they should be making that contract is something that you can really understand and feel comfortable with. It works best for the business and the consumer when you've had that conversation.
And I guess that one of the big things to pay attention to is when a company has gone through the exercise of being accredited through the BBB, there's a higher degree of safety. And so they can just go onto your website or call you and say, is this company accredited? Is that correct?
That's right, yes. You can search on our site by accredited business. We provide information on a lot of businesses all across North America. Whether they're accredited or not. But when you see that symbol, it stands for trust, and the torch, those who carry the torch have gone through the fire somewhat to be able to become accredited, and it's because of their support that we can provide all of this education to consumers, because these businesses believe in an ethical marketplace.
Oh, that's fantastic. Can you give us your website and contact information, please?
Sure. You can contact us at www.calgary.bbb.org or lethbridge.bbb.org or medicinehat.bbb.org, and that gives you access to us, but also businesses all across North America. So please come and visit.
And how would people get a hold of you, David, for the education pieces?
They can go through the website. It's probably the most reliable thing with my phone call. Do you want me to give me my phone number?
Sure.
Okay. So it's 403-531-8688, or my email is david@calgary.bbb.org.
Okay. Thank you so very much for coming and sharing this excellent information with us today. We thank you very much for joining the Kerby Centre Successful Aging Series. Kerby Centre is really there for you. We're at www.kerbycentre.com. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Please join us again. Thanks for listening.